Hilda Charlton experiences with Sathya Sai Baba, from a talk given by Hilda on March 18, 1982. Hilda said, Sathya Sai Baba was born on November 23, 1926, in a small South Indian village of Puttaparthi. On the day of his birth, musical instruments in the family home played melodies and rhythms on their own, untouched by any hands, and a large cobra, a sacred sign of divinity, was found under the baby's bed. These and other mysterious events surrounded Sai Baba's birth and led witnesses to suspect that this was no ordinary child. As a young boy, little Sathya would lead his playmates in devotional songs before school and would fascinate them by materializing candy and gifts from an empty bag. Even as a child, he was constantly engaging those with whom he came in contact to live righteous and God-centered lives, according to the ideals expressed in the scriptures that are his country's ancient heritage. His boyhood years were filled with miraculous occurrences which reminded all who saw them that the material world was not ultimate, that it was dependent upon a higher spiritual reality. At the age of 13, Sathya left his books and announced to his family that he was the reincarnation of a holy man named Sai Baba of Shirdi. Yes, he said, I am not your son, he told his parents, that he no longer belonged to them, that his devotees were calling and that it was time for him to go. My work, he said, is waiting. When he was 20, he wrote to his older brother, I have a task to foster all mankind, to ensure for all lives full of bliss. I will not give up my mission or my determination. I know I will carry them out. Now that gives you a little idea who he was. I'm going to read a tiny bit of a letter that I received from Baba when I first started these classes. I'm just going to read a line or two. It says, Hilda, my blessings. I know all about the classes in jnana, knowledge, and pranayama, breathing, which you are holding in New York. Convey my blessings to all who are attending and to all devotees there. Sadhakas, spiritual aspirants, must also cultivate love and the spirit of selfless service. Success in jnana and pranayama is to be measured not only by the betterment of physical and mental health, but more by the depth of equanimity gained and the extent of sympathy that wells up from the heart. My blessings are with all those who make such spiritual effort. I bless them that they may have steadfast faith with blessings, Baba. Years ago, I went seeking those who could take the crook out of me and let me merge with the ocean of truth. I left San Francisco on a freighter to see the holy ones of India. As Nityananda, the great saint and my teacher, said, the mind must come to a certain point of dedication, of mindlessness, before the master will appear. I went to India as a dancer and gave concerts throughout the country. I left here with one-way ticket, with $80 in cash, and with $1 million worth of faith. I traveled all over India, and I've been going ever since on that $80, right? And on the $1 million of faith. In India, I had gone to Shirdi Sai Baba's shrine, and wonderful things had happened there. Shirdi Sai Baba had said before he passed that he would incarnate again in South India 8 years later when Satya Sai Baba was a boy. He said that he was the incarnation of Shirdi Sai Baba. Well, I was about to leave India on my way. After all those many years, almost 20 years there, and I heard somebody say, there's a Satya Sai Baba who does miracles down in South India. So I went to the station master in this little town, and I took that old train. Back then, I used to get down to the station very early and go third class and sleep in the luggage racks. I was thinner then. The luggage racks are very narrow. I wouldn't make it now, I'm telling you. I said to the station master, I want a ticket back in 3 days because I am going home to my America. And he said, I can't give you a return ticket. You haven't seen the master yet. The master was Sai Baba. The station master knew where I was going. I said, you gave me that ticket. I got a little on the tough side, but he shook his head and said, you haven't asked for permission yet from the master. I didn't come home in 3 days. I stayed a long time over with Baba. He was very kind to me. With Baba, miracles are innumerable. My first one was when I arrived. The ashram lights go out at 9:30 and my bus got there at 11:30 p.m. Somebody said, come, I'll take your luggage. You sleep on the hospital veranda. So I went up there. In the morning, I had a companion in bed with me, a mangy dog, and they could be mangy there too. I'm telling you, thin as rails. It was cuddled up with me so sweetly, and when it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, still dark, and a vibration came swooshing from what I learned later was Baba's house. He must have been sending a wonderful vibe to the hospital, and I was in the way, and I got it. I thought it was electricity going through me, and I said, wow, I've hit the jackpot here. It was really good, and that was the start of my divine love affair with Sai Baba. I got dressed and I went down and stood outside. That was in 1965. You see, it's all different now. If you go over there now, you won't find this. You may find something better, but you won't find what I found. You understand? Because I am one person and you're another. You may find something much superior to what I found, but my experience is what I would like to share with you. That day, the door opened, and out came this person. He wore an orange silk robe, and his hair was in a perfect afro. When I heard he was coming to America, I thought, my God, what are people going to think about that hairdo? And about that time, that hairdo became very popular over here. It prepared the way for him to come. Unfortunately, he didn't come. I guess our hearts weren't calling him enough. So, anyway, he was looking at me and gesturing, and the people said, go in, he's called you. And I went in. He looked at me and he called me over to a corner. We were so close. Our noses were a few inches apart. And I thought, I don't think I'd get this close to this master. He said, his English wasn't as good then as it is now. He said, what do you want? I said, God. I tell you, from out of my inner self came this word, psh. I didn't have time to think that I'd like a ring or a necklace or a mala. This darn thing came out of me, God. He looked at me and he said, you come back at 4 o'clock. He turned his hand in a nice circle and he went whoosh. And he said, put out your hand. I did. And he put it in some sweet raisin halva. I looked at it. And he said, eat. That is heat. He said as he turned to everybody, she has a yogic heat from doing so much yoga. I'm telling you, I had yogic heat. All right. It used to burst out of my pores. I used to go home, open the fridge door, put my feet in the fridge, and read a book. If that was yogic heat, I had it. So he said as he turned to the people, she has yogic heat. This is sweet. You eat. And so I ate it, and I cooled off very nicely. I didn't have to use my fridge for my feet after that. I went back at 4 o'clock, and he started my training. He started a wonderful relationship that lasted until I came back here. It was a very wonderful thing. Whenever he went somewhere, he would call me and say, Hilda, what are your plans? And of course, I had none. I hadn't had any plans for 20 years. I'd just been roaming. I said, no plans. He said, you come. Be ready at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, I'd be ready at 7. By 10 o'clock, we would leave. He'd say, I know about ladies and getting ready. We tell them to get ready early. I had the privilege that wherever he went, he took me into the home where he stayed. One day I was staying in a room that had little windows, looking onto an altar on an indoor patio. I was sitting there, thinking, who is this guy? He's like a star in the sky. And he walked in. He didn't even look at me. He just looked at the wall and he said, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Then he walked out. He used to play these games with me. He would let me know that he knew what I was thinking all the time. Other memories come back. Even now, I can't boil water without burning the pot. But back then, somebody came up to me and said, should we cook something for Baba? I had visualized Baba's dining room as having an enormous dining table with shining bright silver and glassware, with all the VIPs sitting around it. And when the time finally came to go up with the food that we cooked, I poked my head in the door with about 5 Indian ladies. and I looked at this place where my Baba humbly ate. In this little tiny room, he had a table that we wouldn't even cut vegetables on in a village, and a little old wooden chair to go with it. He looked at me. He said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I cooked something, Baba." He said, "You cooked something?" He said to his sister, "What did you cook?" And she said, "Chapati." He said, "I'll have some of it." You can imagine, can't you? I danced down those stairs. I leaped 2 feet all over the ashram yelling, "He ate it! He ate it! He ate it! He ate it!" Those were the early days that were crazy and fun.